Power tapping. In this video, we're going to do a quick demonstration on power tapping on the mill, the lathe, and the CNC. We're also going to cover the different types of taps. In this video, to save arguing, we're just going to say taps are divided into two categories: power taps and hand taps. Hand taps are usually purchased at hardware stores or Amazon, places like that. They're more for household use. They don't really have a place in production anymore. The taper tap seems to have the most names. It's called the taper tap, the first, and the starter tap. This tap is 8 to 10 tapered threads. This allows you to start your tap perpendicular into the hole. It also requires the least amount of force to tap threads. The plug tap. It's also called the middle or the second. This tap has 3 to 5 threads that are tapered and is also commonly used for cleaning threads that are already tapped. The bottoming tap has the least amount of tapered threads, 1 to 1.5. It is used to finish tapping the bottom of blind holes. What is a power tap? Let's take a moment to identify the 3 most common power taps. Fluteless tap. Fluteless taps are also called roll forming taps, form tapping, thread forming taps. They create the thread form not by physically cutting a chip, but by plastic deforming the material. Spiral point taps are generally used on through holes. This is because the cutting edge is angled towards the front of the hole, and the chips form and get pushed out the front or ahead of the tap. Spiral flute taps are generally used for blind holes. Their cutting edges face backwards or to the top of the hole, and that's where the chip gets ejected from. Therefore, they're ideal for blind holes. It's easy to identify taps when they're drawn, but they're a little bit more difficult to identify when you have them in your hand. Okay, let's play a game. Identify that tap. Can you identify all of the types of taps? The most important thing is, can you identify which tap is a hand tap and which tap is a power tap? This is very important because if you put a hand tap into a milling machine and you power tap it, your tap's more than likely going to break. Okay, let's take a look at this one. Can you identify this tap? What type of tap is this? This is a spiral flute tap. So therefore, the chips will come out the top of the tap. Good for blind holes. Can we identify this type of tap? This is a roll form tap, and it just so happens to be octagon shaped. This won't produce any chips, so it's good for blind holes and through holes. And it's a power tap. Can we identify this tap? This tap is a spiral point tap. It pushes the chips out towards the bottom. So this is best suited for through holes. Can you identify this tap? This is a starter tap. This is a hand tap. These are other forms of hand taps as well, different sizes. Do not put these style of taps inside of a milling machine and tap or a lathe. How about these two? Do we know what these types of taps are? We haven't talked about this yet in our video. These are pipe taps. They have a 3/4 inch per foot taper, and they are hand taps as well. How about this tap? This is also a roll form tap. Power tapping on a mill. Here are some pointers that you should know before you start power tapping.
So we're in low gear right now. So when we turn the machine on, we don't want to slam it from forward to reverse. So when we turn it on, we're going to be going forward. We're going to tap our hole. We're going to put it into the off position, let it slow down. Then when it stops or comes very close to stopping, then we're going to put it into reverse. If we go from forward into reverse right away, it is possible to pop the breaker. Now here, we want to make sure that we have this all the way down or past the point that we're going to tap. Because what we don't want to be doing is in the middle of our tapping cycle, bottom out, because that could snap the tap. So we want to make sure that we have enough clearance all the way down so that we can tap the hole all the way to the bottom and come back up. As we're tapping downward, we're going to feed at the same pace that the tap is being pulled in. We're going to go into our neutral like we talked about, and then reverse and pull back up the same amount until the tap clears the workpiece.
Our first demonstration is going to be a spiral point tap.
What we're going to do here is we're going to power tap, so I'm not going to be tapping this by hand with a T-handle. I'm actually going to be using the power of the machine to tap this hole. So let's see, how do we do this? First of all, because I'm tapping, I want to be in low. So I make sure that I'm in low here, and my RPM is around 120 RPM. So that's what I have here, and that's pretty good. I could slow it down. As a matter of fact, I'm actually going to slow it down just for this demo so that you can see it go in and out more. Also, before I start tapping, what I want to make sure is that I have clearance here. Okay, you want to make sure that this is not up here so it gets caught. That could actually snap your tap off by accident. So we don't want to do that. So we make sure that this is all the way down, and we make sure that this is loose. Okay, we have our tap securely in our chuck. Some people say you shouldn't use a chuck, but these are older chucks, and it's okay to do it in these. There's all sorts of tapping heads and floating collets, but we don't have any of those, so we're just going to use a direct tapping method, almost the same as what we did on the mill. Okay, so here goes. I'm doing this as slow as I possibly can. I'm going to use a little bit of coolant here, a little bit of oil. Now the trick is, when I start feeding down, I want it to be able to pull all the way in. I'm going to put the machine into neutral and let it stop, and then I'm going to reverse and I'm going to pull, and then as this feeds out, I'm going to lift up so that I'm not sitting on top, spinning on top of the threads. Okay, zoom in, let's take a look. We're coasting. So I tried to keep the same pace moving up as I finished the tap, so I didn't strip the threads at the top.
Let's check out spiral flute tapping.
Okay, so with this tap is a little bit different. This is a spiral flute tap, and the nice thing about a spiral flute tap is it's designed for bottom end holes, so where the drill doesn't go all the way through, so the chips actually come out through the top. Okay, same thing that we do for the other one, we'll do with this one. So, a little bit of coolant here, a little bit of oil there. Bring this guy down, get it ready. Now I want to follow the same feed down and the same feed up so that I don't damage the top threads. So, here goes. Okay, bumped you.
Let's check out roll forming in action. The biggest difference that you'll find with roll forming compared to other forms of tapping is that there are no chips. The threads are formed through plastic deformation. Tapping on a CNC machine. Tapping on a CNC machine is the easiest form of tapping compared to all others. Tapping on a CNC machine is the most difficult to set up compared to all of the others. Tapping programming is relatively easy. All you need is a few variables, but if you make a mistake on one of these variables, you will be fishing out a broken tap. Power tapping on the lathe. This probably requires the most operator skill because of the weight of the tailstock.
Okay, so today we're going to power tap on the lathe, this 8x1mm tap. But before we get started, we have to do a little bit of prep to the machine. One of the things we need to do is lubricate the tailstock really well. So I'm going to put some hydraulic fluid on the ways. And make sure this guy moves in and out easily. Now you want that to be able to move easily because as you're feeding in, as this rotates, you need to feed in the same pace as what your thread pitch is. So in case you're a little slow or a little fast, you want this to move back and forth. On a larger tap, it's not a big deal, but on a small tap, it's a very big deal. Okay, so now let's get started. A little bit of lubrication here.
The part that you can't see is that I'm feeding the tailstock in as the tap is being pulled in. When I slow down or put the machine into neutral, then into reverse, I slow my feed. Then, when I hit reverse, I back my feed up until it is all the way out of the workpiece. And I continue on at the same pace because I don't want to strip the threads at the front of the hole. I'm glad to see that you enjoyed the video. If you have any comments or you disagree with something that I said or I missed something and you want to improve it, let me know in the comments section below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. It's free. It'll help me out. All you have to do is click on the icon on my face and I'll do the rest. Thank you for watching the video and have a great night.